Hi everybody, thanks for coming. I am Alessandro and I am from planet Earth. I feel pretty lost here, it's a completely different world for me. I am so lost that this morning I went to the wrong place. They gave me a hacker wristband, which I kept just because it's pink. So today I'm gonna talk about Solarpunk and Permaculture. I will try to understand during these days what this whole world is about, and I'm going to try and give some kind of information about what Solarpunk is and how it can help this world and how permaculture can do that. So if we think about Solarpunk, Solarpunk is actually a vision of a future that embodies the best of what humanity can achieve, a post-scarcity, post-hierarchy, post-capitalistic world where humanity sees itself as part of nature and clean energy replaces fossil fuels. So said it this way, it kind of sounds good, at least to me. So in order to understand what Solarpunk is, we need to take a brief look at the history and the history of science fiction, because Solarpunk is a type of science fiction. So if we start from the early example, way back from the 8th and 9th centuries BC, in the ancient Indian texts, humanity tried to imagine what future would look like. And so we have many different texts and many different ways humanity tries to imagine this future. So we see various examples here. But if we get to the true beginning of science fiction, it dates back to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein from 1818. So it's then where science and technology becomes part of what science fiction is, and so it's the real beginning of science fiction. So we have works from good, like famous authors like Jules Verne or H.G. Wells. But if we go also to the 20th century, we have this paper called Amazing Story that's been printed from 1926 onwards. That's printed the most famous science fiction writers like Arthur C. Clarke, Robert Heinlein, and Isaac Asimov, down to Ursula Le Guin. But in 1984, cyberpunk is born. So cyberpunk is why Solarpunk was born afterwards. Because Solarpunk gives us the prevailing narrative that we see nowadays. So a narrative of high technology, low life. We know that narrative shapes reality. So what we really want to do is to give ourselves a different narrative. That's why Solarpunk was born. So here we see a different type of imagery that has its different colors, different shapes. I myself tried to contribute to this by editing the Solarpunk manifesto, which was translated so far in 18 languages. So if you don't see your language in there, please help and translate the manifesto to other languages. And, oops, I don't think I could do that. Please, thank you. So if we take a look at the Solarpunk manifesto, we see some of the points in the manifesto. So Solarpunk is a movement in speculative fiction, art, fashion, and activism that seeks to answer and embody the question, what does a sustainable civilization look like, and how can we get there? So, for example, the point number 3 of the Solarpunk manifesto says, at its core, Solarpunk is a vision of a future that embodies the best of what humanity can achieve. A post-scarcity, post-hierarchy, post-capitalistic world where humanity sees itself as part of nature and clean energy replaces fossil fuels. If we go on from there, we see, for example, number 4, the punk in Solarpunk is about rebellion, is about counterculture, post-capitalism, decolonialism, and enthusiasm. It is about going in a different direction than the mainstream, which is increasingly going in a scary direction. We go on. At number 9, Solarpunk emphasizes environmental sustainability and social justice. Number 12, Solarpunk recognizes the historical influence politics and science fiction have had on each other. This is truly important because we pass from what it is a narrative, what is literature, to what can actually change in real life. If we go on, Solarpunk culture includes all cultures, religions, abilities, sexes, genders, and sexual identities. If we go on to other points of the Solarpunk manifesto, we have what is more visible about Solarpunk, which is the aesthetics, the visual aesthetics of Solarpunk. It is a mix and a mashup of the following. So 1800s age of sail, frontier living, but with more bicycles. If we go on, creative reuse of existing infrastructure, sometimes post-apocalyptic, sometimes present weird. We go on. Appropriate technology, which is a very important concept, at least to me. Appropriate technology is the technology that gets things done in the easiest possible way, a way that I can understand and I can repair and do myself. Go on. Art Nouveau. Here we have some example of that. On the left we see the architecture by Gaudí from Barcelona, which is where I actually edited the Solarpunk manifesto, but also we have Alphonse Mucha, which is from Prague, so it's a good mix of Art Nouveau. Hayao Miyazaki, famous Japanese director and possibly, at least to me, one of the best directors there is today. We can go on. Yugat style innovation from the non-Western world. And high-tech backends with simple, elegant outputs. So here we're just looking at different aspects of what a Solarpunk, how Solarpunk would look from the outside. If we go on with that, point number 19, Solarpunk is set in a future built according to principle of new urbanism and new pedestrianism and environmental sustainability. And to the last slide about permaculture, Solarpunk, sorry. In Solarpunk, we pulled back just in time to stop the slow destruction of our planet. We learned to use science wisely for the betterment of our life conditions as part of our planet. We're no longer overlords. We're caretakers. We're gardeners. So it's getting back to our roots. Yeah, you can go on. You can go on. So, Solarpunk is a good idea of what a bright future could look like. And there are many people that are trying to write that different narrative with different means. But at some point, we need to decide, okay, how are we going to actually do that? How are we actually get there? Because if it just stays as a fancy, pretty idea with nice colors, to me, it's just pointless. So, where I see a strong connection is with permaculture. So, what is permaculture? Permaculture is a design process that we can actually divide in 4 different steps. We're going to see more of that later on. But with these 4 different steps pass from observation, that you can see here on the left, to the following step, which is design. So after observing, we design what we want to do. Implementation, just getting things done, and celebration. So celebrate and reflect on what we've done. With permaculture, we need to get some history of it. Again, permaculture is a concept that was first developed in 1978 in Australia by David Holmer and his teacher, Bill Mollison. The term permaculture comes from the union of permanent and agriculture, so actually feeding people. We're actually talking about stuff that is real. But later on, and very soon, evolved into permanent culture. If we can go back to the history, oh, sorry. If we can go back to history, in a definition they give, permaculture is a design system that integrates ecological principles and patterns observed in natural ecosystems to create sustainable and productive human environments. It involves consciously designing landscape, buildings, and systems that mimic the diversity, stability, and resilience of natural ecosystems while providing for human needs. So this is what we want to do with permaculture. Other possible definitions of it is that permaculture is a creative design process based on whole systems thinking informed by ethics and design principles. Another way, which I like very much, comes from a colleague of mine, which says that permaculture is common sense. It's going back to what humanity has always done, but lately we as humans have detached ourselves from nature, from the way things work in nature. So we have to relearn that. So permaculture is common sense in a world where sense is no longer common. Another way of saying it, which comes from ChatGPT, is that permaculture is a design philosophy and set of principles rooted in ecological wisdom inspired by the observation of natural systems. And to me, permaculture is just ecology applied to design. So ecology, which is understanding how the natural world works, and then applying it to designing whatever we want to do in our lives. So we're going to see this in the following slide, which is going to explain a little bit how permaculture actually works. So how does it work? So I tried to, let's go back to the main image. Oops. Sorry. I tried to resume what permaculture is in one image. One slide is quite difficult. I usually give 2 weeks long intensive courses just to explain the basis of permaculture. But here we can see, and here just we know, go to the first part, we see permaculture as a tree, something that everybody knows. The tree has ethics at its core, so the central part of it, that develops outwards towards the techniques. So the ethics that we can name in permaculture are earth care, people care, and future care or fair share. So it's caring, basically. We have to care. They are not invented, these ethics. They are the core of permaculture, but they can be found in many different cultures and around the world. after moving outwards towards the skin of the tree, we get to the design principles. So what do we do with these ethics? Ethics are there, they are deep down, but how do we apply them? So we need design principles. These design principles are thinking tools that, when used together, allow us to creatively redesign our environment and our behavior in a world with less energy and resources. If we get further out, this is still quite general. We are going to see it a little later. We get to the strategies. So the strategies are context-specific guidelines that concretize the design principles. A strategy might be, for example, in a space, collect as much water as you can. Reuse that water as many times as you can before it leaves the system. Produce food on place. So how do we make strategies even more concrete? We get to the techniques, which is what we actually see from the outside. It's the outermost layer of permaculture. And the techniques are actions that materialize the strategies. So we can see that this same pattern of circles is the same at different heights of the tree. So we're going to see the different heights later. But if we want to take a look from here, so this is a representation given again by David Holmgren, one of the inventors of permaculture, a representation of what the ethics and a proposal for design principle looks like. So again, the ethics are at the circle. They're like at the center. Sorry, there are 3 circles. They're interconnect, and that are basically the same thing, but said with different words. And they're always there, always at the center. Then we have this proposed series of 12 design principles. Other authors have given other design principles, but it's again saying the same things with different words. So we go from observe and interact, to catch and store energy, to obtain a yield, apply self-regulation and accept feedback. So as I read them, I realize that they might seem just distant concept and very general. But if you dive deeper down in permaculture, they become pretty obvious to you, and you see that you can use that in whatever you do. And they are already present in many of the things that we do. So again, use and value regenerative resources and services, produce no waste, design from pattern to detail, integrate rather than segregate, use small and slow solution, use and value diversity, use edges and value the marginal, and creatively use and respond to change. So there will be many examples about this. In the courses I gave, we make different, we show different ways of using these principles. Just to give an example, for example, with principle number 11, use edges and value the marginal. We tend to get to the center of things, to what is the real thing, but where most things happen in nature is at the edges, at the fringes of systems. So it is where there is more interaction between different systems. So you have elements from one system, elements from another system that at the edge meet, and also you have specific elements that exist just at the edge. So the edge is where you have the most of it. as a friend used to put it, it's like when you are at a bar. He said, I don't like to be inside because it's too hot, and I don't like to be outside because it's cold, and I like to be at the door, which is where most of the people pass, and so you meet people from different places. So if we go on with the presentation, we get to the other aspect of permaculture. So we saw that a tree grows outwards, but it also grows from the roots up. So in this case, we have what we call a permaculture design process. So this is the backbone of permaculture. These are the steps in our design journey. What we need to do in order for things to actually become reality. And this is the colorful sap that brings permaculture to life. So if we start from the roots, we start from steps, again, 4 steps: dreaming, planning, doing, and celebrating. Is a way of seeing it. Another way is with more specific steps, which we see on the right. So we start from the observation of whatever system or whatever we want to interact with. Then we come with the mission. So what do we want to do? What is our objective? Then with the mission, so we try to make it a little more concrete. And after this first part, this first dreaming part, we celebrate it. Because celebrating is very important. We are not accustomed to do that in our society. We're just accustomed to keep going. But celebrating what we're doing and evaluating that is really important in order to go on and to give us energy and new ideas. So after the celebrating part, we get to the planning. And the planning is divided into analysis of the data that we collected during our observation, and with a definition of objectives. And objectives need to be smart, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-bound. So things are becoming more and more concrete. After that, we get to the actual design. So we have the data, we analyze it, we put our objectives, and we actually design to create something. After this part, we have the design of what we want to do. We celebrate again. Again, this celebration, which is very important. And after that, we get to the doing, the actual making things real. So we go to the implementation and maintenance. After this third step, we get to the fourth one, which is the actual celebration. And the actual celebration can be divided into 4 steps. Evaluation of the process, of how things went and why. A tweak, so do I need to change anything? A reflection on the process itself. So how did I do this process? Did it go, could I have done it differently? Could I improve on it? And after that, we have a ritual. So let's get together, let's have a party, let's celebrate. And that ritual, like a fruit that falls from a tree, has in itself the seeds of a new observation. So the process starts again. For each one of these steps in the permaculture design process, we have a wide varieties of methods and tools to make it more real. So here I gave my vision of that in this wheel, where we have in the innermost 3 circles, 3 different design processes that are connected together. And for each step of the design process, there are in the 4th and 5th outermost circles a series of tools and methods that we can use in order to make those things more real. So I know this is a lot of information. It took me years to develop this. However, these things can actually really make things real in real life. So if we want to move on from here, which I can do also, we also see the different areas of application of permaculture and of the permaculture design process. So if we go to the to the other slide that is there inside, if you can do that, I can't. So these areas can be visualized as a flower, as a sunflower. So we have the ethics and design principles in the inside, and we move outwards in a spiral from the personal to the local to the global. So our action always start from the personal, then the local, the people we know, and then go out to the global. And the different areas are different petals of this sunflower. So we have ecosystem and environmental stewardship. We have habitat and building. We have technology and energy, community and governance, education and culture, health and spirituality, economy and livelihood, politics and legality. So these are the areas where this process and these ethics and these design principles and strategies and techniques can be applied. And this is how, by following, if we go back to the main image of the tree, by following the process, the design process of permaculture and the growth of the tree from the inside to the outside, and applying it to the different aspects of society, how we can make a Solarpunk vision real. So this is what I usually try to do. If we get to the very last slide, Solarpunk and permaculture, where does one end and the other one begins? So this is, since I got to know about Solarpunk, this is what bothered me, because they actually seem to have the same type of vision and the same type of ideas. But what happens is that permaculture helps us get there. So in my case, I tried to put this together. We wrote a book with my wife, which is called, it is in Spanish. So we're looking for publishers in other languages. So if you are a publisher by any chance, please come forward. It's called A Wheel, The Wheel. As you see, we have the wheel that I showed you before at the center. It's an illustrated novel about permaculture with a Solarpunk fashion. So the book actually follows the wheel design process. So we have the different areas. So it's a way to show that this design process can be used basically to do anything we want and to make it reality. If you want to have more information, there you have my email address and my webpage. And this is the end of my presentation. So we have some time left. So if you have any question or any things you want to comment about, now is the time. Otherwise, I'm going to be around these following days, and you can contact with me even afterwards. So, yeah, 1, 2.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the talk. I found it extremely meaningful. I was just wondering, in our mission or aim to reaching net zero, I think it's utterly important that the energy sector is one of the main drivers to achieve net zero. And I was wondering, are there any permaculture examples that, or research projects or initiatives that are happening in the energy sector to sustain the transition towards net zero?
Well, there are, as I said, there are various areas of actually research and of doing things in permaculture. And there are people that are interested in energy specifically. Recently, I was talking to a colleague and he showed me some videos on YouTube about this community, which is in the United States and is called Future Energy Farm or something like that. I'm not quite sure. I can find it out and then tell you afterwards. But yes, they are actually researching and doing things with energy. What I think they do, they use, for example, continuous, I'm not really good at this, but instead of having electricity, what's it called, alternate electricity, they have continuous electricity in the things that they use. So they use electricity when the sun is out, basically, and so they can use as much as they want without so much how to say it? Fluctuations. Thank you. That's an example I can think about. I also know people that are doing kind of the same in Catalonia, which is again where I developed most of these ideas. And there is another community that is called I don't remember now. But yes, they also work with solar energy and actually using heavy machinery when the sun is out, and at night they just have very little light that they use. So this could be a way how energy could be used in a permaculture way. There was another hand. Yeah, there.
I've seen the word post-capitalism a couple of times in your presentation. How do you define it, and potentially how do you want to achieve it?
Okay, as I said, that's part of the Solarpunk vision, and the Solarpunk manifesto is not something I wrote, but I actually collected many ideas from hundreds of people that talked about Solarpunk on the internet, and I tried to put all the ideas that resonated with me and with what I understand is a Solarpunk vision together. So I don't know if there is a way to get to post-capitalism. I hope there is, but as I said, Solarpunk is about the vision. It's about where we want to get. And I personally think we want to get there, to post-capitalism. How to do that? Maybe you here can help us get there. So I hope that by giving these ideas, or talking about these ideas I have, maybe that could help you think about alternatives.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Other questions?
Good.
Nope. Okay. Well, again, thank you for listening, and I'm going to be around.